Alright, so Jose Reyes now went to the Miami Marlins, and this is just a death strike for the Mets. I mean, the Mets have officially been hijacked by the Wilpons. They're clearly not interested in making the team a winner. They only are interested in basically surviving right now economically. They should not be allowed to still own the team. I mean, when the Dodgers are actually bankrupt and they're able to sign Matt Kemp to a huge deal, and the Mets aren't able to sign Jose Reyes to $17 million a year, that's not even a ridiculous contract. A, a team in New York charging the prices they charge for tickets should be able to sign a $17 million player. All right? They have almost $60 million coming off the cap this season. And you're telling me you can't sign a $17 million player? All right, I'm just going to go off the numbers. Beltran, $18 million coming off. Oliver Perez, $12. Luis Castillo, $6 million. K-Rod, around $12 million. And Reyes was $11 million last year. You're telling me you can't add $6 million to Jose Reyes' contract in New York when you have your own television station? And the bankrupt Dodgers are able to sign Matt Kemp. How exactly can this be justified? As a Mets fan, it's tough to be a Mets fan right now. I mean, I'm sorry if I'm getting repetitive, but the Wilpons do not care at all about upholding the tradition of Mets, which is competitiveness. All right, you can't justify Moneyball to a team, to a fan base, when you're in one of the biggest markets for baseball in the world. All right? In Philadelphia, the prices are a third of what the Mets charge for tickets, and yet they're going to have a payroll probably like almost twice the size of the Mets this year. All right? They're having $60 million come off the cap. All right? I understand they have $60 million tied up, almost 60, between Johan Santana, Jason Bay, and David Wright. But there's nobody else making a lot of money on the team right now. They're claiming that they're shooting for a $100 million payroll. I really don't see them adding $40 million to the team besides David Wright, Jason Bay, Johan Santana. And maybe, the next highest paid player might be Pelfrey, who's going to make $3-4 million. The Mets, they're being used right now. As a fan, I feel like I'm being used by the Wilpons to get them out of a situation with the Bertie Madoff scandal. And the only reason they're not being forced to sell the team, and there is a precedent for forcing people who aren't financially able to run a franchise to sell, is because they're tight with Bud Selig. I just realized I didn't even touch on how this is just going to hurt the Mets on the field. When you look at the record for the Mets with Jose Reyes and without, it's not even close. This is going to be an absolutely brutal season for the Mets. Even if Johan Santana comes back and pitches decent, which I'm questioning how strong his arm's going to be after all the surgeries he's had, they might finish. I feel like we're going to finish in last place. With how good the Marlins are going to be, the Nationals are going to get Steven Strasburg back. They have Bryce Harper in the minors. I doubt he's going to come up this year, but still. With Strasburg healthy, the Nationals are going to be 5-6 wins better than they were last year. And if the Mets aren't going to add anybody of significance, there's no Pujols or Fielder or really even any other good player we're going to sign. Because the Wilpons aren't going to spend any money because they're using the Mets to get themselves out of something they put themselves in. Right? Whether or not they knew what they were getting into is irrelevant. They're using the Mets and the Mets fans to bail themselves out. I'm sorry if I'm getting repetitive and you're getting annoyed at this, but it just pisses me off when an owner is able to use the fans for their own personal gain. They should not have a franchise. Mark Cuban, if you stumble upon this, please buy the Mets. Anyone? But back to on the field, this is just brutal. Ruben Tejada is a decent player. They just traded Angel Pagan. I don't know who's going to lead